Andrea, I'm going to put you on spotlight so people will see you first.
Yes, perfect. Okay, we can start. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first meet and greet of this year. My name is Andrea Sangil. I am the Executive Director of the Global Network for Popular Transportation. We are your hosts today, and we're really excited to have also the SPARC team here to show us a little bit of what they have learned throughout these couple of months that we've been working on a project that I will tell you a little bit more about in a second. For those who are new to meet and greet spaces, our meet and greets are webinars and spaces of discussion where we meet with different people in our network and we learn from each other. Our organization, the Global Network for Popular Transportation, seeks to identify who is working in different things around popular transport around the world, who is doing research, who is executing projects and best practices, and innovating in ways where we can better recognize, understand, approach, integrate, and plan to improve and transform popular transportation. And we have partners all over the world. And our job is basically to know where they are, to connect them and understand if there's a need here, if someone else has done something similar, and we can all learn from each other. So this learning curve that we are facing of trying to transform and improve and strengthen popular transportation in cities in the global south can be reduced because we are talking to each other. Systems change and transformation of complex systems such as transport in cities takes a long time, but it is quicker if we are talking to each other and learning from each other. You will see that several of you are coming up as Camila Barquero. We made a small mistake and we sent some people the link to Camila, who is right here participating. The true Camila Barquero is saying hi right now. So if you're under the name Camila Barquero, please rename yourselves. There's some instructions where you can rename yourselves. And we would also like to know who you really are. So please, in the chat, we would love to hear about who you are or which organization you're representing, where you're coming from, so we can also know who's in the crowd today. We would also love to say hi right now to our partners from VREF and from Columbia University. This meet and greet today is possible because we are part of a project that is funded by the Global Research and Educational Foundation's VREF on informal and shared mobility. And we are part of a research network that is called PRISM, Partnership for Research on Informal and Shared Mobility, that's led by Columbia University. And we have 7 partners all over the world. I'm just going to show you where all these partners are. So the different partners in the PRISM Research Consortium that is supported by VRF are a lot of partners around the global south. We have 2 partners in Latin America, the Center for Urban Sustainability in San Jose, Costa Rica. That's going to be the Living Lab in San Jose, Costa Rica. One in Universidad de los Andes in Bogotá. A group in Ghana researching popular transport in Accra and Kumasi, and it's the University of Ghana, of Manchester, and Oxford University. The University of Cape Town in South Africa, SPARC in Mumbai, the Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, and WRI Beijing. So we're going to have our hands full throughout the year, and we're going to have different spaces where we can all learn from the different work and the insights and the lessons that we're extracting from each of these living labs. And also the idea of these meet and greets is beyond what we're learning within the consortium, that we can share these learnings and insights with people in our network and outside, practitioners, other researchers, people who are decision makers. And the way we're going to start doing this today is based on the presentation and what we're listening. We're going to post, Camila, I think might have already posted or will post soon the link to this Miro board. And here, if you are gaining valuable insights or you're learning something that you think is new, is interesting, is insightful, and that other people should be learning about, you can write it here. These post-its are writable, so you can say hello, or you can write whatever you feel is interesting and that you're learning from this experience. And we're going to start collecting these learnings from the different labs in these different meet and greets. So if you want to interact during the session, if you want to learn, to add your learnings here and also add questions, or if during the presentation or after the presentation, there's something that you feel was not covered and you would like to learn more about the project, you can also put it in this other space over here. So that way we can also continue to feed into this learning process and to improve the way we are doing our research, improve our research questions, improve the way we are documenting the information that we're learning from these processes. So without further ado, I would love to introduce the SPARC team of, I don't know, would Jane from BREF like to say hi before we start? Kind of putting you on the spotlight first. You're muted.
Yes, hi, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Good. Thank you very much. We're very happy about this occasion starting off now, and we're looking forward to learning a lot. I know my colleague Henrik is just finishing up another meeting, will be joining us soon. So thanks, everyone. We're really excited about this.
Thank you, Jane. And Jackie, who's leading our consortium, would you like to say hi?
Sure. Hello, everyone. And I won't say much because I'm really excited to hear more from the SPARC team.
Super. Thanks, Jackie. Then I will hand it over to the SPARC team, who can introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about what you're doing, and then we'll have a more open discussion with the rest of the participants. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Andrea, and greetings to everybody. So I am Anirudh Paul, the principal investigator from SPARC, and we are looking at Mumbai. Mumbai is our city, and I'll also tell my other colleagues to get them introduced also. So if you all can introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm a co-PI in the project. And
Hi, my name is Shitija. I am a research associate in this project.
Hello, I'm Shreya, and I'm also a research associate for this project. And yeah, I think Paul will take forward with this.
Okay, Shreya, can you share?
yeah. So we'll just share the.
Okay, so just the first slide, the next slide, Shreya. Okay, the third. So this is our team. Actually, we have a team which is formed with already local groups which are working there on ground. Okay, so we have got Yuva, which is working in one of these areas where we are actually studying this whole idea of informal shared mobility. Yuva is a group which is looking at actually flooding which happens in this area. We have got community-based organizations which are like the Valaipada Samaj, which is a basically a localized set of groups which are residents community there, and we are working with some of the auto unions which are very active in this region. Our academic organization whom we are working with is the Kamla Raheja Vidyanidhi Institute of Architecture, where I also teach. I'm a professor there, so they are academic partner, and that's where we have our next gen calls from. And we have already got the SPARC team. We have Sheila, who's a director, Maria, and others who have already introduced themselves. Okay, the next slide. just to explain you how this living lab works. Okay, as we have already said, we closely work with another NGO called yuva, community based organization called the Valaipada Samaj and the Union. And so all this three form the living lab, not only us. So not only SPARC, but we form the living lab. We continuously work in tandem with the urban local bodies. We are always in interaction with them, and also with political organizations who actually form the auto unions. They are very central to actually fighting for the rights of the auto drivers. And there we have a academic partner where we create academic knowledge. So that's how we work. The next slide. Okay, so I'll explain you the context of Mumbai. So this is the Mumbai Metropolitan Region. The region which is shaded is the Mumbai Metropolitan Region. The region in pink is the Mumbai region and the Thana region. Okay, Mumbai Municipal Corporation and Thana Municipal Corporation. So that's nearly 13.14 million, and the total population of the MMR is 26 million. So that's what we are. So the pink area is actually served by auto rickshaws, but they are individual. They are they are they are they are individual services. Okay, and the 26 million is shared auto. That is the people who are 12 million out here are shared auto systems. So that's what we are. Okay, and just to explain you the context of Nalasopara, it's a part of a peripheral municipality called the Vasai Virar sub-region. And just zooming into that, the Vasai Virar sub-region, there are 4 stations, railway stations here. So just to explain you, this system that we are looking into works in tandem with the complete suburban rail system. The suburban rail system, as you see in the MMR map, are these lines that are there, and there are railway stations which are there. So zooming into the Vasai Virar sub-region, we have got 4 railway stations called Nagaon, Vasai, Nalasopara, and Virar. So these are the 4 railway stations. So it works in tandem with the public transport system, the suburban rail system. And on the eastern side of the railway station and the western side, the railway line is north south aligned. There are these informal shared mobility systems. So that's where they actually work in tandem, and they provide the last mile connectivity to those neighborhoods. We are actually studying only one of them, Nalasopara East, because we know that the system is nearly similar in all these other areas. And if we can actually work in one of them and map one of them successfully and obviously intervene into them, they can be replicated. And they can, and as you understand, once this replication is done over Nalasopara, this can scaled over the Mumbai metropolitan region. So that's the scalability of this project. So and just to give you an idea that like there are in the periphery, the region that is the yellow region that we are seeing, nearly 190,000 auto rickshaws. So that's the number of auto rickshaws there are, which are serving 13 million people. So that's the type of numbers that we are dealing with. And just to give you an understanding, in the MMR, 10% of the people living in these peripheries, okay, and who live primarily in the informal sector, okay, are dependent, the livelihoods are dependent on driving auto rickshaws. So as we understand, even the auto rickshaw drivers, they are part of informal settlements. So if we are able to address this whole
मैं check
whole
करता हूँ।
issue
वो
whole
API
issue of,
number आपका है क्या? You have your voter ID card?
I think somebody has to mute themselves.
Yes, I just muted them. Apologies.
Okay. So if actually we are able to address this this numbers, okay, you are able to actually in some way intervene into addressing this notion or into of even of housing. So that's the type of impact it can have. And just to tell you how does this system replicate itself, in the sense that how do they inform itself from the formal system which is already running in Mumbai. So the fare structure is set from there. the fare structure of this informal mobility system works on the fare structure which Mumbai has, which is a base fare of 23. And what they do is, depending on the distance and depending upon the number of people, they calculate the fare. And also, they also calculate the fact that sometimes they have to return back empty. So they double the fare. So that's what they do for the calculation. And it turns out to be that since it is shared, it is affordable for the people who are the users. Okay, next slide. So what we did was a preliminary study actually of the area. So a lot of it was through visual documentation. We made videos of the place. In fact, a lot of our early forays into the site was done through workshops by students. They actually completely through digital ethnography, they prepared or documented viewpoints of various stakeholders that they made, either it be drivers, either it be users, either you will see there are vendors also who are very much integrated into the system. There are agents who are integrated into the system. We also went into these neighborhoods actually who use these systems. Some neighborhoods which are very well served, some neighborhoods which are not so well served. So that's the type of mapping we have been doing. And as you have already seen that all our partners are already working there, they are engaged with that locality. So for us to start participatory meetings with stakeholders has been relatively easy, because we got them immediately into the discussion table. We started having, and also remember that most of like what we have formulated came from them, especially the issues and what they would like to do with this study. So that has been the motivation for these stakeholder meetings. And we obviously have undertaken now a completely analytical trip study of this place. Okay, so we will show you one of the videos. We won't go through all the videos. We had actually held a workshop with students, taking students from the KRVIA, the next gen schools, and we had looked into these various themes that you see on the right. But we will have one of these videos, just to, as a 4-minute video, it will be a short video, just to explain you the context. Can we have the video?
SPARC team, are you on?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are sharing it now.
The Mumbai local trains act as a transit corridor by which the city's movement is defined. Every day, lakhs of people travel for work from the peripheries of Mumbai Metropolitan Region to the city center using this corridor. A large population from Nalasopara, located in the Vasai Virar sub-region of the MMR, travels around 4 to 5 hours a day to provide services in the city. This pattern of mobility has given rise to a routine for its inhabitants. The station area emerges as a node with different modes of last mile connectivity available for its people, like shared auto rickshaws, buses, and individual two wheelers. The shared rickshaw, which is informally organized, is the most dominant form of last mile connectivity for this suburb. Distinct paths are formed with large footfall of people alighting onto the platform, rushing through each other at the station exit, swiftly along the market to reach the shared auto rickshaws. The concentration of vending areas has emerged organically near the boarding points of these shared auto services. We find at these boarding points, auto drivers are waiting and calling for people to fill up the autos. Before they head home, people take a pause to shop, eat, and get essentials for their home. Around 7 pm, we observe vendors with their stalls lit up with battery operated lamps. These lights enliven the market area and form a vibrant space for people returning home till 12 p.m. at night. The premises turn active with recorded voices bursting through speakers, advertising low prices, and human voices of vendors in ranging pitches wooing for attention from the customers. A large footfall is observed after 9 p.m., briskly moving up and down the street to grab the necessities just before rushing home on bus or by walk or by shared auto rickshaw. This ecosystem within the station premises forms an integral part of the everyday life of the inhabitants of this suburb. This population largely comprises of working class people, daily wage workers, industrial workers, and domestic helps who move using these transit corridors from the periphery to the city. The station premises turns into a public space where all forms of essential services organically accumulate. In such cases, the informal shared transportation and the market work in tandem as they form a complex ecosystem that provides affordable food, services, mobility, and recreation to the working class population. Presently, this self organized ecosystem has competition from large organized shopping malls that have started being constructed adjacent to the station precinct. This provides us with an important question on the future of these self organized markets, mobility, and housing system that these suburbs have nurtured and generated over a long period. Our present project on informal shared mobility is an exploration into the possibilities of a more humane integration of these self organized forms within a sustainable imagination of the city.
नाला सुपाला हम गरीबों का सहारा 5,000 डिपॉजिट 2,000 भाड़ा कभी पानी आ रहा तो कभी पानी जा रहा जा रहा साला कहीं को पकारा नेक्स्ट स्टेशन नाला सुपाला अगला स्टेशन नाला सुपाला
Okay, so like we come back to the PowerPoint again. Okay, so there were many such short videos prepared. We will share the videos with you. And so Camila will share it with all the rest of the participants. So you can see it as and when you wish. Okay, the next slide. Okay, just to give you an idea of this whole ecosystem, once we had made these ethnographic explorations, we and also talking to these various stakeholders, the driver becomes the center of attention. Okay, starting from the auto drivers, okay, there is this whole notion of the driver and the auto. Okay, and we realize that there is a difference of understanding between both the driver and the auto. Some of these autos are, in that sense, they have crossed 15 years. That's clearly against the norms. So that's why it becomes informal. There is a notion that they don't have the documents of their autos, though they might have the documents as drivers. Okay. The other aspect which we also found, and that's we have been trying to understand now also, is the understanding of drivers as locals and immigrants. So, like if you see the locals, they are people who are original residents of actually villages that these suburbs had. And obviously, urbanization has happened in the agricultural land around them, but they are the locals. So there are auto rickshaw drivers that are locals and immigrants. And there is a clear politics between them. That also is something very interesting. Okay. As far as the auto drivers, their rights are concerned, that is negotiated by the unions. The unions are very clearly very important. They negotiate the rights. They also negotiate the amenities for the auto rickshaw drivers. They are generally affiliated to political parties. Okay. And you have the user also. The user also might have certain access to political parties sometimes when they're aggrieved as users, like in terms of like amenities in the railway station, then they go to the political parties. And as far as the government is concerned, they have got the clearly the police, traffic police, the municipal corporation, which is called the Mahanagar Palika in this case, and the RTO, which is called the Road Transport Office, which gives the licenses. So basically, these are the government bodies that they have to negotiate with. So this is what our first study, first exploration through these processes gave us an understanding that that's how things are organized. And just to explain, sometimes where you have no documents, you have also got agents who make sure that your auto doesn't get seized. So there are also this notion of agents coming in, and very clearly through the also through the what we have been watching those videos, you saw that how this system is very intricately linked to the informal vendors who sell wares, who sell things. So we understand that studying this system also involves studying these vendors. So that's how this system is organized. Okay, the next slide. Just to explain you now the context of Nalasopara. So the railway station, as you can see, it has been marked here. There are nearly 6 exits from the railway station to the eastern side. And so there is a northern side of the neighborhood, okay, which is here, which generally consists of middle class cooperative housing societies. Even the southern side consists of middle class of cooperative housing societies, and also it contains few villages. So that, but it is generally very well served, because there is a lot of users who are capable of paying the money. Okay, and that there are different routes also, and it is well served. You can see the network here. Now, as you go towards the east side, as you cross, you can see the green is a hill, and as you cross the hill, okay, and come to the east side and connect to the national highway, there is a whole landscape of industries. It's a complete landscape of formal and informal industries, along with lot of migrant labor population. And that's where this system, it has only got one route running from the railway station to the national highway, and that's the longest route also. So there are intermediate stops that you can see. So this is an area, lot as you go deeper and deeper, these are underserved areas. So the underserved areas are areas where the auto rickshaws generally would not like to go there, because you're not sure of clientele. But these underserved areas do house a lot of population, because the population density in this area is much higher than the area which you saw as the formal housing area. So and as you saw, if you see the next line below, the below line comes from the station below, so that gets served by the station below. This is how the system works. Okay, so the next slide. Just to explain you how the system works, okay, especially from the railway station to the highway. Okay, different structures of payment. Often from the highway, they have to return back completely empty. So they include that in the fare. So this is in the morning hours. It gets reversed in the sorry in the night hours. It gets reversed in the morning hours. So that's how it works. That's it's considered one trip completely. Okay. The next line. So this is a slide which gives you an understanding of the incomes and the expenditures. So let me just explain to you. So if you have an X amount, this is in Indian rupee. We have also converted into dollar for people or for international audience. though there are percentages also. So you will understand it in various forms. You can understand in Indian rupee, you can understand it in percentage, and you can see here that if the monthly income is 30%, some X amount, in loan you spend nearly 13%. In fuel you spend 23%. You have to give bribes which are of 3%, parking rent of 1%. The auto rickshaw driver while driving spends some money, especially in lunch or breakfast. So that's nearly 8%. Okay, and you have got maintenance 1%. So nearly of the income that you have, 70% actually goes on auto rickshaw maintenance and these various types of fuel expenditures. Okay. Now, if you calculate the household expenditure above health and education, you can see it's way above what the monthly income from auto rickshaw, from one single auto rickshaw driver can get. Okay. So how does the house run then? This is something we have been doing a study for a family of 7. Okay, though we intend to elaborate this study. So when we understood this, we saw that obviously this family income has to be augmented. It cannot be only the auto rickshaw. Either there are sons working, also the woman also is working. So please understand the role of the woman is very, very important in these families. Okay, they have to additionally augment these incomes. And also here something I must say, like, about, I have introduced you about the locals and even the migrants. The migrants become more vulnerable. The migrants become more vulnerable because they don't have landed property. The locals have landed property. So what happens is this is an additional income. Apart from the fact that they're locals and they have more clout, so this is an additional income for them. They have other sources of income. So you realize that this income, the same income, can impact different types of auto rickshaw drivers in different ways. Okay. So let's see the next one. Okay, so after talking to them, like we have been so what are the challenges they face? Okay, living in informal settlements, faces significant challenges in planning for their family future. As you can see, the most of the income goes on being spent on carrying day-to-day activities. Okay, most of them don't have insurance. Most of them don't have medical insurance. So what happens is they become very vulnerable to climate change. And as I've told you already, that these are neighborhoods which flood. They flood during the monsoons. So during the monsoons, these families become extremely vulnerable. Okay, and a lot of these families, because as you can see, the infrastructure is not there. The infrastructure for parking sometimes is not there. They have to pay a lot of money for parking. They have to, even in terms of health, because health is a big issue in these routes. A lot of these auto rickshaw drivers uh, have problems, respiratory problems. So health becomes a very big issue. And also, like, a lot of these neighborhoods have problems of infrastructure, bad road conditions. So bad road conditions means you're not able to walk till your auto rickshaw stop, and also the auto rickshaw is not able to go inside. So that also is a big issue that is being faced by this neighborhood. And the last issue also is about some of these neighborhoods don't have access to any sort of shared mobility. They have to walk nearly, if you see that yellow line, that is 45 minutes walk, they have to come to that yellow line. And sometimes it is not possible for the women and the children, who are the most vulnerable, because remember, it's about education and it's also about augmenting incomes. So that's they become very vulnerable. Okay. So, these are the another other aspects which have been also listed down: limited accessibility, absence of infrastructure, also upheavals like flooding, pollution, pandemics. All of them are a problem. As you've seen, licensing after 15 years, that becomes a problem. Monsoon is a problem, and health conditions is also as an aspect which needs to be understood. So the next slide. So these are our research questions. So first of all is to set a process of mapping. It's the process of mapping all the stakeholders whose livelihood are affected from this informal shared mobility. Till now, we have been able to identify three. We have been able to identify the drivers, the vendors, the agents. So there are much more. So that's something we will be able to understand how this can be mapped, and how can we map the financial aspect of all these stakeholders that are associated with this. So we have done one study. We will go on actually conducting this study. So one is the question of mapping. Then the question is, how can livelihoods of various stakeholders that is associated with this informal shared mobility be improved? The next is the how can these existing mobility systems serve deprived neighborhoods? So just not the question of like the drivers, even the neighborhoods, we understand that their livelihoods is affected because there is no mobility. So how can that be addressed? And also, like very clearly, the issue of health, how that can be addressed by addressing pollution and congestion directly. Okay, and obviously that creates a sustainable infrastructure, green infrastructure in the long run. So these are primary questions that we have to ask from this study. The next slide. Okay, and as we are conducting this study, we are trying to frame this study within the larger framework of livelihood, because I think that's something we need to address. And it's not just the livelihood of drivers, it's also the livelihood of users, and it's also the livelihood of other stakeholders, the vendors, the agents. So thus we understand that that's the way we are looking at this project through the lens of livelihood. Okay, the last slide, I believe. Okay, not the last slide. Okay, so that's the different types of mapping we are doing. We are doing a stakeholder mapping. We are doing a detailed trip mapping. Okay, driver, vendor, agent. Then we are mapping the users, and also we are doing neighborhood mapping. The user mapping and neighborhood mapping are something SPARC has already done for study of informal settlements. So that's what we are strong. We're using the same methodologies. These methodologies we are learning from others, and we are seeing how these mappings can be done. Though we have started some of these mappings. Okay, the next slide. Okay, just to show you trip mapping, we are generally studying a system which is demand responsive, not supply responsive, in the sense that like though we have certain ways of mapping public transport, GTFS is one method. We are trying to tweak it to see how it can be made demand responsive. It doesn't have a schedule. Okay, so we are trying to address that. So that's one of the things we are adopting to. The next slide. Okay, that's the last one. Okay, so first is very clearly, though the governments understand the importance of this system, okay, get them to recognize that this is a very important public transport system, which requires them to augment infrastructure. Okay, now the development plan of this municipal corporation is coming out. This is a time when they can look at providing stands, parking lots. So these are things which need to be done to provide better infrastructure. Obviously, the governments can provide access to easy loans. There are loans already, but sometimes due to agents, they have no access to these loans. It's mainly like a system which is driven by private banks, which are the main players here. Okay, and how can routes be improved? That's something we want to look at with the use of digital technology. Those areas which are not as yet like addressed, can we have these auto rickshaws providing shared mobility there, which might be completely different. It might not have stops, but it can provide shared mobility in those areas. And obviously, finally, as you improve their livelihood, improves community resilience. And to address the issue of health, we want to encourage green mobility. So that's the project we have in hand. And with that, I will end this presentation. Thank you. And we will take on questions.
Thank you very much. Yes, we are. Thank you very much for your insightful presentation. I think one of the things that I would like to highlight from this experience is part of the work that PRISM is doing, our research consortium, is focusing on informal and shared mobility through a lens of three different elements, which are equity, ecosystems, and engagement. And I think you covered all of these three things with the view on livelihoods and on how to connect vulnerable communities and understanding how this improves access and connects to different people who are in a vulnerable situation. We're framing it with an equity view. Then, of course, the ecosystems point of view, you are understanding how it connects to the street vendors, to the other stakeholders in the system. And that's really essential because if we want to do a systemic change, we need to engage with the different stakeholders that are involved in the sector, wherever it is. And finally, the engagement part. Something that I thought was very, very interesting was how you are engaging through a community organization. And I think that's the way that SPARC in general works with the community organizations. Whereas in other experiences, sometimes it's an authority that is trying to approach this directly, and maybe it's a top-bottom approach. This is more from the bottom up with the community organization, with the stakeholders on the ground, with the unions, the auto unions, etc. So I think the way you're approaching this through these 3 E's, right? Equity, ecosystems, and engagement is a way where we can look at the system beyond only its operations and efficiency in vehicles and look at the people and the systems and the ecosystem that surrounds it to identify what the real needs are and who it's really serving and who is involved in the sector. So thank you for that. Just for those who have joined recently, these meet and greets are essentially an open discussion where we can all learn from each other. So I'm going to start throwing some questions out there to get us a little bit more comfortable. But if you have any questions or any elements that you thought were interesting and that you would like to learn more about, please raise your hand in the chat and we'll start calling on the different participants so you can take part in the discussion. The idea is it's not a bilateral thing, it's a group conversation. But maybe one of the first things that I thought was interesting was the engagement part and how you started working with the auto unions and the community organizations. Can you tell us a bit more about that approach on how you start engaging with these actors and also some of the methods you use with them to start collecting information? Sometimes when the process is very academic, it can be a bit intimidating. And also these are also sectors that are used to being sometimes punished or persecuted by authorities. And sometimes there's a lot of fear. We were discussing this in other spaces a few weeks ago about there's some barriers in terms of engaging with these actors to start building trust and conversations to understand the sector. So can you tell us a bit more about how that experience has been, how you approached these organizations, how you have been building trust with them so that you can actually establish a partnership in collecting information and learning from each other?
Okay, so our first approach was to actually employ the community members who are helping us to map. So what we did was the UVA, which is again the other NGO, they run these computer training programs, okay, in their office for the youth of the neighborhoods, all these neighborhoods, these underprivileged neighborhoods. So what we did first was we saw the possibility of getting them into the process of mapping, because most of our mapping modes are now we are using mobile based mapping tools, and we are training them, the people who are right in the neighborhood, the youth of the neighborhood, okay, whom we have access to be a part of the mapping process. So the mapping process, we are there, we are always there, we always take the lead of in the mapping process, but they are clearly a part of this process. So that has eased our work of knowing these neighborhoods, of also getting access to these neighborhoods, talking to people, because these, once they are locals, well, you can start getting access into these areas very easily. So that has been one of the strategies that we have employed. Okay, the second and also, like, please understand also that, like, since they are starting to see the benefit of the fact that they're doing a computer training course and they are obviously getting employed, they also feel happy. They also feel very happy. And the next thing is that we are working with one of the unions. There are many unions there. We are working with one of the unions whom we are friendly with. And as we are working through one of the unions, they are giving us access to the other unions of autos. So that's something that clearly is another strategy that we have used to be working with the already the stakeholders that are friendly with us and who see the possibility of taking this study forward to the government and making some change. And all these issues that we have articulated are issues they have listed down. It's not that like we have come to these issues after discussing like as to how what are their challenges that they face. So always the process has been participatory. That I must say, always the process has been that they have always been a part of our living lab meetings. Okay, though we work in a separate space, but the meetings and all the other aspects we conduct with all of our stakeholders, that we use as a starting point to get access to other stakeholders. So these are the primary strategies that we have been using.
Thanks so much. Jane, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Aniruddha, and the whole team. It was a very interesting presentation. I appreciated the description of the ecosystem, the rich description of the conditions for the drivers, and also the emphasis on the health and pollution aspects. I have one question. This is impressive work. I have one question, and that is, in terms of the situation for the drivers, is crime or access or vulnerability to criminality any part of this picture?
Not really, not really. So what we saw, the only form of tension that we saw in terms of the tension between the locals and the immigrants. Okay, and that also, it's mainly a turf war. It's a turf war between who can run the rickshaws in the more profitable routes. Okay, so that's the only tension that we saw. We didn't see any criminality at all.
Perfect, thank you. There's some comments in the chat.
I
Would
saw
Roshan
that.
want to address his comment or their comments?
I saw the comment. Yeah. It makes no sense if the auto driver is spending on servicing. Like let me just tell you. So we have given a calculation which is based on the like aspect that they run the auto in those routes. Okay, but let me tell you, it's more flexible than that when it operates. Some of them have other ways of augmenting incomes. So what they do is like uh, they take their children, some of the school children, okay, to schools. Okay, they augment their income. Okay, that's done during a time, though there might be time when like in the afternoon when they get the children back. Okay, early morning they get the children into the school. They augment incomes. Some of them always also provide private service. Okay, when there is service to these vendors, service, some people also require to move goods, luggages. Okay, they provide private service. So there are modes of augmenting these systems. They're not formal. They're not very formal. But let me tell you, as far as the system is concerned, when you are going to the highway, you only can make 8 trips daily, nothing more than that. And we made a lot of calculation that only leads to that amount of money. And if you're spending that much, then that's the scenario we have in hand. So as much as people might say that this is very profitable, it's not all that profitable. Okay, you have to find ways to augment this income. And well, that's a part of the study. We will see how this can be done, because there are also underserved areas, and we understand these underserved areas. Once you provide other modes of transport through these rickshaws, okay, you can probably, because remember, the number of rickshaws getting licenses is a big challenge. Okay, and the RTO has been quite liberal in giving these licenses. Okay, so that actually eats away on the profit because the number of trips that you can make becomes less.
So there's some other questions in the chat. Although they're in the chat, this is also a meet and greet, and beyond meeting the Mumbai team, we would also love to meet the other people who are here and again learn from each other. So Gaurav, would you like to open up your mic and your video so you can ask your question?
Thanks, Andrea. Great presentation, and I really learned a lot listening to you. My question was very small question. I remember more than a decade ago there was some discussion like auto fare discussion has always been a key discussion for auto unions in Mumbai, and there was a committee set up which was called, I think, Hakim Committee, and I remember it was they came up with a very progressive formula for setting fare, which actually kept the cost of living at the center of the calculation. I wonder if the present fare set using that formula, or the government has done away with that formula. I mean, because I'm asking this because as you said that it's a livelihood crisis for these people, right? Of course, they augment their livelihood through doing other things, but they should not be. The primary economic activity should give them enough livelihood to live decently. And if they are not being able to live decently on that fare, then what would you say? Like, do we have to revise that formula? Like, how would it become better for them? Thanks.
And thanks, Gaurav.
Hello. Yeah. So, hi. My name is Alex. So, after the Hakim committee, like you mentioned, am I audible? Yeah. After the Hakim committee, there was a Katua committee which had come up, again revising the fares. But the fare structure, like how they set the formula, was on the similar lines itself. The Katua committee actually put more recommendations wherein they were asking for benefits for the drivers and benefits for the driver population, but otherwise the cost structure has been the same. And yes, you want to add?
Okay. Just also let me tell you. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Just let me tell you also, the Hakim committee, okay, has set up the fare structure, okay, also for the individual autos in the city. Okay. Now that is used as a base also for the shared autos. So what they do is the shared autos, they start with that basic fare of 23. Okay, then they see the number of people they are taking. Okay, and see the number of, because clearly the waiting time they have. Remember that the advantage Mumbai has is, like, since it is individual, okay, the possibilities are more. Since it's used as an individual transport system. Here, there is a notion of shares, but the basis of the calculation of the fare, the Hakim committee report remains the same. Okay, so that I must say remains the same. But as you know that, like, the costs of inflations have gone up quite a lot. Okay, and that these are things which are not dynamically changing, and that has been one of the problems to be able to address this issue of livelihood. And what we found out, that contrary to the belief that the auto rickshaws are earning a lot or all these things, the number of licenses they are getting versus the number of trips they can make, like, it's very low, extremely low. Okay, and remember I told you also about the issue of the locals versus the migrants. Okay, the locals obviously take the routes which have the maximum profit. Okay, even the police, let me tell you, are not able to. They turn a blind eye when it comes to the issue of locals versus the migrants. Okay, because they sometimes are the locals themselves. So without going into that, but like, that's what happens. So and for them it's a second income, so that's not a problem for them. But so all these things like make like, and we understand that livelihood becomes a key issue.
Thank you very much. I have Sri Lakshmi. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing. Do you want to turn on your mic or video so we can meet you? And also please say where you're coming from or your affiliation.
Right. Hi, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the presentation as well. I'm having trouble turning on my camera. I don't know why. I'm sorry. I'm actually a PhD researcher at Kamgaar University in Montreal. And I'm very interested in the urban living lab setup itself because it's part of my research. While I study urban mobility at large, I am also interested in understanding uh, how these urban living labs are part of the research and policy making that goes into mobility planning and policy in Indian cities. So I was really keen to understand the constitution, structure, and activities of the living lab itself. It's not too divergent from our topic of discussion. I'm particularly interested because this is a living lab that is studying mobility, and this is the kind of work that I'm trying to track in my research. Thank you so much, and great presentation, great research.
Jacqueline, would you take that question?
Yeah, I'm happy to just say a word or two, although every living lab in this project will probably be somewhat different. And we're very actively trying to also think and reflect together in this project around, how to make this kind of approach effective in these very different contexts. One question that has come up in our conversation so far is this idea of the urban living lab that was heavily developed in Europe and also coming out of a tech sector where it's this idea of experimentation and working with users and all the different actors. So you're learning together, whether that translates very well to different contexts. So I just want to say we have a very open mind about this and an ongoing conversation, which we'd welcome you to be part of. But the concept really is like we have a lot of top-down research that actually misses critical dynamics because it's not rooted in very complex processes that they're supposed to understand. And so we're really trying to encourage this bottom-up approach that will also enable more of the research to be translated into actual impact, because we really don't want to have research for research's sake in this project. We really want to see impact. We want to see changes in these services and in the livelihoods of people and addressing, these equity problems. So that's kind of the way we're approaching it. But I don't know if you specifically want to understand this living lab and how it was constituted. It's a work in progress.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. This is very interesting for me to know that there are more efforts being planned in India, I presume, and also in other global south cities, I understand. What fascinated me is the focus on mobility and mobility livelihoods, which again harks back to a background I have in studying labor economics while I was working as a researcher in India. So thank you so much for taking the time, and I hope that I can reach out in some form or fashion to continue this conversation and understanding how the Urban Living Lab is constituted or being co-constituted. Thank you.
We'd love that. We welcome collaborations and we welcome your feedback. So we'll put our contacts in the chat, and that's true for everyone here. We want to have a very open learning environment and outreach and develop more collaborations beyond just the people who are currently in the Living Lab. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, as Jackie mentioned, one of the most interesting things about PRISM and the number of different actors are in the consortium is we all are learning a bit on how each of the partners are approaching this, and each living lab will have a slightly different focus, a slightly different way of engaging. And that's also why we think it's really interesting to learn on how everyone is doing it a bit differently to identify which of those strategies might be the most useful or the one that adapts the best to our context and our research projects as well. I have Roger on my list.
Yeah, Roger Teal. I've been involved in demand responsive transportation for 40 years, but really my question is for the folks in India. There's been impressive progress made in the last 2 to 3 years in electrification of 2 and 3 wheel vehicles in India with indigenous industries. And it's clear that that's going to be a really big deal in India. But to sort of re-platform all of the vehicles that they're involved in the service that you've shown to us is going to take a very large amount of investment. Is the government beginning to think about this? Because clearly these local entrepreneurs don't have the resources to make that level of investment. But at the same time, it seems absolutely essential.
Yeah. So I'm speaking from these peripheries of Mumbai. Okay, the governments have like grudgingly understood because they are not able to provide public transport. Okay, even they have a public transport of bus. Okay, that service comes once an hour near the railway station, so they know that. So you can see some of these stands have been organized. You saw those videos. Some of these stands, auto stands, have been organized, but they are woefully short.
Yep.
Just woefully short. Okay, the number of stands which are organized, the number of routes that are there, okay, exceeds sometimes 5 to 6 times more.
Right.
Okay, there's a lot need to be done. Even in terms of the vehicles, because you addressed this issue of like pollution. Okay, the vehicle. I know that these industries have made a battery operated vehicle, but to charge it, you will have to go back home. Okay, there are no charging points.
Right.
So please realize that like though there is a vehicle, electric vehicle being made by one of the top industries in India, Bajaj. Okay, there is no infrastructure to charge those vehicles. So you need these systems in. That's what like we are trying to do, because there's a development plan being made for the whole of Vasai Virar, and we understand that mobility is the key aspect to this whole region. If the development plan wants to actually achieve equity, okay, and you saw how that whole public space of the station transforms because of mobility. So a simple thing like providing infra for making this green and making this available for this type of mobility system affects even the constitution of the public realm in this station area. So we understand the impact of it, and that's what we want to engage the government with, that you need to provide infra for this. Okay, and it's not that it's not doable. It's not that you need land always for this. You need a recognition. Yes, the system is important. Okay, so I to answer your question, like the governments are doing very less.
Yeah, no, I've been working in Africa for the last couple of years in Ivory Coast with the group that just got a service off the ground there, and it's very much the same story. I mean, the government, frankly, the best thing the government can do sometimes is just stay out of the way, because oftentimes they're more trouble than they're worth. But at the same time, when it comes to needs for capital to sort of renew an entire sector, then if they don't step up, I have no idea where the resources come from.
Yeah.
I don't see other questions right now in the chat, but actually maybe following up on that question from Roger. Now that you mentioned that there's a development plan being done for the area and that it would be really important to incorporate these insights and to start including and recognizing and supporting the auto rickshaws operators and infrastructure in the plan, what would be next steps for the Living Lab? Just also a reminder to the rest of the participants. This is a project that still has a few years to go. So there will be more updates on how we're doing in the future. So also that's also why this is kind of a first taste of what's going on. So maybe the question is, what is the next step to bring all these insights that you have generated in this initial phase to feed into the development plan or to different projects that are being planned from the authorities in the area? And what's the strategy to engage with them as well to incorporate the learnings from this research into actual policy and planning?
So Andre, as I've been talking about, like very importantly, what we want to do is even these like plans that we prepare, okay, and you saw that and I have been, that's a very important a plan which requires immediate research on, is preparing a very friendly station area plan. Okay, okay, we intend to take these plans through the people. Okay, and who are the people? As I've told you, these auto rickshaw drivers form a very important constituency in these neighborhoods. Okay, to them we intend to take it to the local government, because we know that the local government generally, when there is political pressure, they hear to the masses. Okay, we don't want to just, because if me and you, if I go there, they will hear me out, they will hear me out as an academic and intellectual person, but they are not going to do anything. Okay, but if the masses go there and they say that this is what we demand from you, okay, and remember, like as I've said, all the auto unions are connected to political parties. Okay, though there might be one political party which forms the government, but they are connected to all the political parties. So we intend to get support from all the unions, and we are doing a project where actually there is. It's not that there is any interest for one political party. These are infrastructure projects which all political parties should support and will support, and we intend to take this forward through them. Okay, because what will happen is soon the development plan will have a suggestion and objection period, and in that suggestion and objection period, they will call in for consultation from various stakeholders, and we want to be one of the stakeholders in this process, so that we can inform the planning process right there. And like lot of the research that we will do now, even we are funding research in academic research that we are doing, we will actually, and we are working very closely with an architecture college which has a course in urban planning, urban design. Okay, so we intend to create these infrastructure plans, which will be forming the basis for something which can be achieved in a tangible manner. Like we don't want to just affect policy. Policy is something we will go on working with various levels of government, but there are plans which can be achieved uh, to augment infrastructure in a very clearly tangible manner and which everyone can understand. That's what we intend to do.
Great, thank you. Also, in terms of the information that you've been generating, sometimes one of the things that we've seen also in other experiences in our network and also in the living labs is that once the information is there and the maps are there, sometimes it's the first time for even sometimes the users or the operators to see this data and information. What maybe has been surprising or new reactions that you've seen or new uses that maybe you didn't expect or effects that you didn't expect happen once you introduce this information or once this information and data was co-created with the sector? Yeah, could you tell us a bit more about maybe some unexpected results or some unexpected reactions or uses of this information that's being generated along with the partners in the project?
So the immediate one was those mapping of underserved areas. Okay, so I think that is something which became very like on your face, like how much population and how much, like, because as I've told you, the density in the migrant area is much higher than the areas which have the formal cooperative housing societies. Okay, so that became clearly visible about how much, like you can see it, either you see it as a challenge or as an opportunity. Okay, how much more can be done? Okay, and because as I have said that the numbers of auto rickshaws are much more. Okay, they are more, and that's why they are not able to like make number of trips large number of trips that can augment their incomes. But these underserved areas, probably through that's something we are trying to explore also, to use of digital means, can provide shared mobility. So that might augment the idea of a paratransit system. Now it's a paratransit system which is running. But if we form some digital tools, it can form the basis, the same auto rickshaws can form the basis for providing service to these underserved areas. Okay, but that is something which came immediately to all the stakeholders, that, well, this is something, and we saw it as a problem. We never saw it as an opportunity till now. But as a team that we are working, now we realize that probably this can be an opportunity also.
Thank you so much. I would just like also to call on the group if there's any other questions or comments, insights, or if you would like to share some experiences as well of your work related to the popular transport sector. Not yet. Okay, then I would just like to jump for a second to the Miro board that we've been sharing with you on the chat, just to get some insights on what we have included in the Miro board so far. Also, yes, as Jackie was saying, the meeting is being recorded, and also this Miro board will be available so that people can come in and see. We will post this all in our webpage, and people can come in and see, okay, what's going on in the Mumbai lab and what's going on in the Bangkok lab, and get updated information on what's going on in different places. So I will share my screen just a second to show you what's going on here in the board. Some valuable insights regarding that have been written down around here. The element of how this project is being articulated with the railway stations is really essential. We've been talking a lot in different conversations around popular transport on the importance, beyond regulation or beyond optimizing systems, the value of better integrating these systems, which at the end of the day are public transport as well. Also, the amount of rickshaws in the area is very telling of the impact it can have, the link to low-income neighborhoods, and the level of vulnerability is very telling of the equity component of this project as well, and how much if we improve and support the sector, how much impact it can have. Also, the holistic view of livelihoods, I think that's something that is really, really important and that we can learn from this lab. The analysis on how is this sector actually supporting livelihoods? Is it enough, or does it need support? And something that we have found in different experiences around the world is that these systems usually operate at cost with no support, no subsidies, no investment. And any improvement that we would want to do either will raise tariffs and make it more expensive and less accessible, or will reduce the amount of income that the operators will have, and this will affect their livelihoods. So it's really important to understand the livelihoods and the way income and also expenses are balancing out in these systems. So I think the insights from this session are really valuable to generate better understanding on this. The element of recognition of this system as public transport is essential, and generating data and generating visibility on how many people it's serving is essential for that. And also generating data to support this transition to a greener mobility. The statement of governments and the position of governments is also really important to understand how we can navigate that transformation. They're usually very restricted, and so the important thing is to engage with them to try to identify how we can work jointly to improve the system, even if they're not at capacity of making great investments, we can identify partnerships and ways to support each other and to engage with other actors, for example, donors or the private sector, to generate these improvements. And that's also something we want to learn from how this is being done in different labs around the world. Some questions that came up have been written around here. I'm not going to repeat them, but just so you know that these are being documented here. I wanted to show you also here just what else would you like to learn about this project. This is something thinking ahead. As I mentioned, this project is going to be ongoing for a few years after this. So if there's things that you would like to be updated on, or things that, I don't know, what happened to the development plan? Were we able to impact the strategies that the government is taking, et cetera, et cetera? So if there's any other things that you would like to learn more about, for example, I added here about the approach of the living labs, how it's different from the European network of living labs. If there's any other things that you would like to understand better about the project so that we can better document it and provide information for you as part of our network, please do so here. Please include them here. And so the Miro board will be open for everyone to contribute. I'm gonna stop sharing. I see there's some comments around here in the chat. It seems like a lot of people are having to drop off. So I'm just going to open up again the floor if anyone else has any other questions or insights or comments. Jackie.
Yeah, I was just wondering if maybe some of the other SPARC team want to talk a little bit about the experience also with the students, because I was very impressed with the elective course that you created and had, you know, different groups of students really look at different actors and talk to them and make these films, which I hope everyone will watch because they're really wonderful. So I'm just wondering if any of you want to speak to that part of this work. Because one part of the vision is actually cultivating and encouraging the next generation of scholars to really give us new insights and to build a stronger foundation for moving this kind of work forward into the future.
Yeah, I think mostly the students who had come had already an architectural background. So the whole module was designed in a 1 week thing. So because they had a background, the understanding of the space line and that it was much more faster, and we could see that at least in the output when we saw the way they thought about what they should be saying, how did they understand people, how did they understand the drivers. It was very, for us also, a new way to look into, okay, we could think about the vehicle as a like how everyone had their own perspective towards mobility and understanding mobility also. So I think the more number of eyes came under observation, like there were more people observing, more questions being asked. So it was a great experience through that, even though it was for a week, but it was great to see them also getting engaged. I think the video format helped a lot, wherein they were more excited to work with the video format and see how that is coming in. Yeah.
So yeah, there was also parts where they had much greater insights to the area. So like they had their own approach in idealizing or coming up with the entire concept of the video, and they had their own ideas on how to approach these people, how to approach. So we all our aspects were given as topics to them. So like the vendors were given to one group, the users were given to another, drivers were given to one, and then the neighborhoods were again divided between other two groups. So they all picked up aspects onto what they found interesting, and for most of them it was quite shocking because they are all in and around the city, and for them coming here and seeing this kind of uh, uh, a formation in a system which they had like very little idea about was also very shocking to them, and them opening up and talking to the people finding out very small details about their livelihood, their ecosystem, how they move around, how they actually live. So these videos will actually show you on how they have interpreted it and how they have taken it in as informations and have actually produced it out as a video. It's very interesting because we gave them the entire liberty to come up with their own storyline, and they themselves came up with ideas on how they should put put the whole video together, what kind of music they would want to put, or what kind of audio they would like to have. Everything was on them. We just directed them across. So it's very interesting to see that from the videos.
Thanks for that additional information. Do you want to comment more? Yes. I thought we were just sharing the mic. No, I think thanks, Jackie, for that additional question. Also, for people who are not involved in the consortium, one of the key elements that is part of the work that we're doing in PRISM is trying to engage with what VREF calls next generation scholars. And it's basically helping newer generations of researchers get involved in this topic. And even if it's not a PhD student, if we can have master students or just undergrads getting involved and understanding the sector better, learning how to do participatory planning, how to do interviews, how to document this in ways that is not paper, but is also video. That's really essential to generate momentum on more people understanding the sector, more people getting involved, and more people generating knowledge and research on this. So thanks for sharing that experience. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we're reaching, Jackie.
I always have so many questions because I just think it's such amazing work.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to maybe ask about the really interesting symbiotic relationship that seemed to exist between the vendors and the auto rickshaw drivers and workers. It just seemed to come out very nicely in the film, which again, I hope people watch. And it's an element that's often not really recognized, that the way that this these shared mobility systems actually enable critical economic activity. So they're not just, getting people to jobs, but also are critical for transporting goods and so forth. So I just wonder if you want to make a small comment about that as a preview to your ongoing work around that might touch on this.
Question to us? Okay. See, for us, when we had been going there mapping, okay, and that's something we realized that there is a very, very strong relationship that seemed to be there, and that's how for us it became clear that it's just more than, and that's what I had been talking about. That it is a question of designing public space. Okay. It's a question of designing the whole station precinct based on the idea of mobility, because uh, and you know that we are architects, we are urban designers, urban planners. Okay, if we had not started it from the lens of mobility, we would have seen it as a public space, but with a very different approach to the whole process. Okay, now we understand the importance. Once we started this understanding and relationship, studying the vendors and these auto rickshaws together, we understand how important place it can be for allowing, like as you saw, the whole city to celebrate, because that's a place, as you saw, that the whole city has to cross that place. Okay, when they're going home, they have to cross that place. So that is a, and that starts from mobility. That starts from mobility. So that's what we saw, and you saw that it's just not buying. It's like even people spending some time, okay, eating food, okay, doing something else before going home. Okay, so all this get interconnected to the notion that probably our railway stations, which are so important spaces for like for a city like Bombay, which is whose lifeline is the railway station. Okay, can have a completely new way of achieving what is called truly a public space, because most public space today, if you see in cities like Mumbai, are being beautified, and under this notion of beautification, what they are doing is like removing the informal from these public realms. Okay, but I think this is something which like though I always get very worried about take formalizing things too much, because as we were talking about, formalizing also can have its own problems. Okay, but we understand the importance of how this two relationship between the mobility and the vendor, okay, is so important to our city and the creation of public realm and the creation of what we call equity.
Thanks so much. We are almost at time, but just before we close, I just wanted to give you a little bit more information on what comes next. So this was our first meet and greet of the year, and where we are having one of the members of our PRISM research network work on informal shared mobility. And so throughout the year, we're going to have more spaces like this. And so we have 7 living labs around the world. So we'll have opportunities to learn from what's going on in Ghana and what's going on in Costa Rica and what's going on in South Africa. And so we will have information of what popular transport looks like, how it's operating, how it's being innovative, how it's being electrified, etc. In different places around the world. So please, if you don't follow us yet, please join our newsletter, where we usually talk about about the different events that we're planning. Also, you can also follow the social media from VREF. There's going to be some research forums where it will be more focused on the research part and methods and how to approach this from a research perspective. There's going to be other research forums focusing on other living labs. And we, from the Global Network for Popular Transportation, we also have a newsletter where there will be a section where we will keep you up to speed on what's going on with the network. So we had a little taste on what's going on in Mumbai, and then we'll continue to give you updates on what's new, but also we will have news and updates on what's going on with the rest of our partners around the world. So also, if you want to learn more, or if you want to engage with someone from different living labs, if you're going there, or if you want to learn from their methods and their results, please let us know. Jackie, do you want to suggest any other ways of keeping up to speed with what's going on with our PRISM research?
Yes, for sure. We'll be launching our website soon, and we'll be keeping, everyone updated through that as well. So we'll be posting all the different research and community of practice and next gen scholar news and outputs there. So stay tuned. And so if you sign up with GNPT and also VREF, they also have a fabulous network of scholars and activists. You will be informed about all of that as well. So, and I just also want to really thank GNPT, Camila and Andrea for this really wonderful curating of this event. Thanks. It's been great.
Thank you so much. And so thank you everyone for participating, taking the time to join us. Thank you to the Mumbai team, the SPARC team, for taking the time to share with us all that you've learned in this process. And also thank you VREF for their support for all of this work in different places around the world. It's really making a difference on how we learn and how we approach, and hopefully how we will be able to transform and improve the sector. And none of this would be possible if it were not for their support. So thank you, everyone. I'll give you 2 minutes back from your day, and let's keep in touch, and let's continue to work together to improve popular transport. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you,
Jackie.
everyone.
Thank you, Camilla.
Bye.